They're not the rich and famous. Their profit comes not from the thing they sell, but the good they do. Our nation has more than 1.5 million nonprofits that employ 1 out of 10 Americans, providing services that otherwise go unfulfilled, keeping our community connected when all else fails. But nonprofits often lack the tools to properly promote themselves, to inspire more donors and volunteers and clients to their cause. That's where I come in. I've been in the nonprofit world for nearly 20 years. I connect nonprofits with marketing professionals who donate their time and expertise so that, at the end of the day, these life-giving organizations can do more, do better, by creating more, that's right, buzz.
Today's Buzz is going to look and sound a little different. That's because I'm producing it myself, because I wanted to give our director of photography, Dan Mirolli, the episode off. Why? Because on today's show, not only do I want to use the power of video to feature several different nonprofits, I also want to feature the amazing video producers who donate their time and talent so generously throughout the year, helping nonprofits achieve more buzz. Talent like photographer Ryan Hunt, who regularly shoots the biggest names in music and sports, and most recently helped share the mission of the nonprofit Compress and Shock Foundation.
So the Compress and Shock Foundation, they're a local nonprofit in Roanoke founded in 2017, and their goal is to bring free and equitable access to CPR and AED education to all communities, especially those most adversely affected by cardiac arrest due to race, ethnicity, primary language. So basically increasing awareness and education, and they just want to teach everyone that bystander CPR and AED use is so important for saving lives.
We are building a structure for community and CPR education that should be sustainable and community-centric. Anywhere in the country, this should be the education delivered to the community, all segments of the community, everybody, equal access to this education. Our foundation is not going to be like any other foundation providing CPR and AED education in the country. We want to be the first that says the very first thing we're doing is trying to make sure what we deliver is for everybody. It doesn't matter where you live, how rural, how suburban, doesn't matter race, ethnicity, religious, language spoken. We want everybody. And our foundation has set our flag on equitable access to CPR and AED education for free to everybody. This is a life skill. Nobody should be denied this education.
We first got to know Jamie Nabers, owner of Boss Motion Pictures, in 2021 when we featured his team creating an incredible retrospective video of Feeding Southwest Virginia's 40th anniversary. In 2022, he lent his talents to help the United Way of the Roanoke Valley spread the word about the importance of COVID vaccinations.
So I am president and owner of Hamlock Curtis Funeral Home and Crematory, located in Roanoke, Virginia and Rocky Mount, Virginia. It was new to all of us, and for those that have been in the industry a long time, it kind of reminded them of like the AIDS epidemic and the pandemic and then all of those type things, because nobody knew how you can contract it. And a lot of people forgot about us in our industry, and our families and everybody that was affected by that. I slept in the basement. We were handling deceased, and some of them died from COVID. I didn't get to hug my wife. I didn't get to my kids. It was several weeks of just like no contact. Like, Daddy can't come to your game. Daddy can't do this. And that's painful. It was one of the things that kind of just scared everybody. The unknown is scary, or it can be scary. We buried a family where their husband and the wife died within 12 hours of each other. We buried babies, that were 1 year old, 3 years old, stillborns due to COVID. Some families had to make health and life choices. There was a pregnant lady that we unfortunately had to serve where she had to make a decision, either her or her baby. And of course, they made a decision where they saved her life, but the baby died. This pandemic has changed our way of living and way of death care tremendously. I mean, you had some that were, I also serve as our state president for our association. So I got to meet and talk to a lot of people all across the country. There were funeral homes and funeral directors that were burned out and quit. I mean, that's how bad it got. Some funeral homes just couldn't handle the number of cases that they were doing. They were used to doing a smaller number in their regions, in their areas. We were working 20-hour days. You barely saw your family. I mean, it was just one of those things where you just didn't know day to day how this was going. As soon as you serve one family, here's another one, and here's another one, and here's another one. And it was very taxing. So some of the challenges that the families share with me during the height of COVID, again, nobody knew how you contracted it. They didn't know if you had to wear a mask or whatever. Some funerals, and then the governor's orders, you had one person at a funeral, no more than 10 people at a funeral. Our memorial service or any celebration of life, some cemeteries won't let one person get out of the vehicle. So think about that as far as your grieving process. How does that work? You don't really, that's what, funerals are for the living. They're not for the deceased. They're for the living to grieve appropriately and however they grieve and move on, with their lives on a day-to-day basis, but they weren't able to do that. And I think that has built up a lot, just all across the Commonwealth and across the world. But I know for a fact there have been several people in our death care industry that have suffered severe mental health due to COVID and serving families and seeing everything that we see on the day in, day out basis. So if that is the case, please get help. It doesn't hurt to get help, especially to brown and black people that look like me. I would encourage you, please go and see somebody. Unfortunately, we don't go as often as others, but I have seen a very big uptick in that. So the life you save could be mine.
My good friend Bruce C. Bryan, owner of 5 Points Creative, has been a longtime friend of Buzz. His Roanoke marketing agency provided the buzz on our very first episode in 2019, helping Healing Strides of Virginia, and has appeared on another 4 episodes since then. In 2022, Buzz cinematographer Dan Mirolli returned the favor, helping 5 Points Creative produce a video for the nonprofit Local Environmental and Agricultural Project, aka LEAP. But that wasn't the only nonprofit helped that year by 5 Points Creative.
So in the middle of 2022, 5 Points Creative was approached by the Virginia Institute of Autism and by SVH Services, who both organizations work with autism primarily and with other learning challenges. The thing is, they do the work in 2 parts of the state. So VIA was up in the Charlottesville area. SVH Services and BRAC, as it's often known down here in Roanoke, was working in Roanoke, Lynchburg, and Lexington. And both organizations were started 20 years ago by parents. There was a huge gap and there was no organization that was really doing that work. So they started the work and built really powerful nonprofits, very strong, independent nonprofits who, after a few decades, realized their concurrent work would be done better if it was done in unison. So they made the decision to merge their organizations, and they're working together now and accomplishing way more than they were independently.
Throughout the decades, VIA and SVH Services have been well known across the state for providing the highest level of care and services to children, adults, and their families. After careful thought and planning, we have decided to combine our strengths and talents and come together as one organization so we can make an even greater impact on those we serve. We will be stronger together.
My son Joshua was born with autism. When he was about 18 months old, we went to Kluge Children's Rehab Center in Charlottesville for an assessment. We weren't able to find any resources in Roanoke, so we just put an ad in the newspaper and started a support group at the Hollins library.
There was this moment, sitting in a room with a bunch of clinicians talking about my son Daniel. The moment of the beginning of VIA, there was an absence of resources and understanding in the community. And so what do? You get up off the floor and you get organized. And so we started a support group. There was a magic moment in that support group when one of our founders turned to another and said, "Why don't we start a school?"
Went back for a second evaluation, follow-up at Kluge Children's Rehab Center in Charlottesville, and probably cried my eyes out to a nurse there because we couldn't find any help. And she said, "Let me tell you about this little school down the road." And she introduced me to Virginia Institute of Autism, VIA, and we went to visit when they were in a little house and met the founders who happened to be parents of children on the autism spectrum.
We get word from Angie about the work that they were trying to do. Could we come and talk to them about what they were doing to try to pull a school together to do just what we were doing? And I can remember one of their early meetings, if not their earliest meetings, sitting in a family basement, sitting around a circle with a group of families, and just the bond that we all had.
While we have many new and exciting things to share with you, one thing will always remain the same: our focus on developing and providing programs and evidence-based services that enable our students and clients to overcome challenges throughout all stages of life. This is and always will be our purpose.
In the world of autism, folks are desperate for support and for help, and as a result, they will often try many different things, even if there isn't research supporting those efforts. And here at the Virginia Institute of Autism, we have believed from day one, our founding families committed to evidence-based practice.
There are experts at VIA. There are experts at SVH. When we come together and we learn from one another, there are pockets of populations that we don't serve yet that VIA does, and we need to.
Each organization has a long history of making the impossible possible, and collectively, we will have the ability to create new and exciting opportunities at all levels of operation. We are poised to become a much greater resource to the communities we serve.
By scaling up and being able to share this and improve what we have, but also share it with other communities, I think it's a really exciting time.
Helping our students and clients achieve their greatest independence in the communities where they live has always been the goal of both organizations. That level of dedication to the community and a clear focus on the future is what now unites us. It's our shared vision.
We've always gone side by side. And now to be in a new embraced partnership with folks in the Southwest, it is really meaningful to me.
This is full circle for me. And if we, last 50, 100 years past my lifetime, past, the other founders' lifetime, and the programs are continuing and evolving and developing, then we've done good work. Together, we're going to be able to make even a bigger difference than we already have in our communities.
We are stronger together, and it will show in everything we do.
The production team behind our very first episode of Buzz belonged to Click and Pledge, which provides nonprofits around the world with a comprehensive online donation platform. A few years ago, the company created a foundation whose mission is to produce professional videos for these nonprofits, and it is led by my good friend and director of storytelling for Click and Pledge Foundation, Bethany Teague.
So the first episode that you're about to see is called The Double Doctor. And her story is really interesting because I think we think a lot about the Blacksburg Volunteer Rescue Squad as mainly college focused. And while there are a lot of college volunteers, Pam is really an example of how it's a whole community with people from all seasons of life.
I always liked animals, which you're not supposed to say when you go for your interview for veterinary school. But I did. I enjoyed animals. I got a degree in veterinary medicine from Cornell, and I received a PhD here at Virginia Tech, so that's where the two doctors came in. I knew two people who were on Blacksburg Rescue Squad. I saw that it was fulfilling, and I thought, maybe I should try this. One thing you have to understand is in veterinary medicine, you work with all different kinds of species, and none of them are the same. And the human was different. So although I knew basic anatomy and physiology, it was a true learning experience for me. We were trained in school to observe and look around and see what's going on. I think that was pretty important.
My name is David English, and I'm the chief of the Blacksburg Volunteer Rescue Squad. Especially being in a college town, a lot of people just kind of assume that it's just a bunch of young college students that do this and that's why we're so successful. But it's not. It's made up of everyone from our community. And I think Pam is a perfect example from her background and experience and how long she's been with us that anyone can do this.
Would I do this again? Yeah, I would do it again. Would I have done it earlier in my life? Yeah, I think I would have if I realized how fulfilling it is.
Pam is very humble, and she will say that it's not her, it's everyone, and I agree with that. I think she's an excellent example of the kind of people that got us through the pandemic and the kind of people that make us such a successful agency in general.
My goal in both instances, the animal people, is to do it with compassion and empathy. My name is Pam Ferrante, and my mission is to serve the community.
So this next episode is called The Feeder. It's celebrating the work of the Rescue Mission of Roanoke. And this one features Pam Ferguson, and she's in charge of Manna Ministries, which is a branch of the Rescue Mission's work. And so she's responsible for assembling and distributing food boxes, hundreds of food boxes every week to folks in need. And so I think hopefully what comes through in this episode, what really stood out to us is just the warmth and the respect that she shows all the people that come through. And it's a really special gift of hospitality that she has, really inspiring to see what she did.
Our goal is to feed hungry people.
You want hamburger buns? Yeah. Yep.
We generally hand out anywhere from 250 to 400 boxes every Saturday.
Okay, we're 8 o'clock on the dot, so let them in, Dave.
Hey, how you doing?
A lot of elderly people, people with children. I mean, it's just all kinds of people that come here.
Would you like to follow vinegar?
They pretty much have things they need to make meals and to make desserts and to have snacks.
These boxes already have cereal in them, okay?
The first thing that I do when I'm out talking with everybody is I thank them for coming.
Thank you for being here.
All people go through things in life where they need help. It shouldn't bother anybody. You know, I invite people to come all the time.
She makes everyone feel like they're over her house for a day. They're like her family, getting together every week for a family reunion, and we all have all this wonderful food. That's real powerful. You can't pay for that. That's what we have in Pam.
It's a team effort. It gives us a chance to show people that we care about them.
How are you today?
Fine.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Pam Ferguson, and my mission is to feed hungry people in Jesus' name.
So coming up next is an episode called Music Mom. This also comes from our Heroes Uncovered series, and this celebrates the work of Jenny Marin, nominated by the Renaissance Music Academy. They're actually our neighbors here at the Corporate Research Center in Blacksburg. And so she is actually learning music of her own now, but we took a look at her days as a young mom of 3 girls, and the trip that she made actually all the way from Wytheville multiple nights a week to bring her girls to get the best possible music education that they could, and just how that's impacted their lives as they are all now adults, and how that's helped them approach relationships and careers and all of that.
I had 3 daughters. I wanted them to know and experience what excellence meant and what it takes. The making of music, there's everything in it. Emotional expression, communicating without words, mental challenges. Mostly, there's joy in it.
No, play something. That's my sister.
We had just moved to Southwest Virginia. That was in about 1993. There was an article about a music academy teaching young children string instruments. So I made the trip to the music academy several times a week, and all 3 of my children were engaged in music lessons. That was a 100-mile round trip.
The mission of the RMA is to develop the highest level of musical ability in order to have a lifelong love of music. The children that I see that have the greatest success are the ones who have parents who have carefully thought about the qualities that they want to develop in that child. Jenny Marin exemplifies that kind of parent.
It was a sacrifice of time and mileage, but most definitely it was worth it. Michelin is a very special person. She's training as a certified nurse anesthetist. She's in a PhD program right now. Michelin played the cello with great compassion. She has a high level of empathy, and I think that all derives from her musical training. There'll be failures along the way. There'll be disillusionment. You'll want to give up, but there's a process of learning not to give up just because something's hard. I think we don't know what is inside us until we have an instrument in our hands. I think those are invaluable character lessons for young children. My name is Jenny Marin. My mission is to find joy, striving for excellence, one little step at a time.
Yes, this last episode is called The Educator. That's for the Salem Educational Foundation and Alumni Association. And so we celebrated Trula Byington, and she spent about 30 years in the Salem City school system as an educator, as a teacher, an administrator. She had a number of different roles. As you'll see in the episode, even in retirement, she's still finding other ways to serve. And so definitely a heart for children, but I think just a heart for the community in general. So that was really fun for me to get to meet her and I think look up to her in a lot of ways.
You have to want to be in education. It should not be something that you do because it's what you happen to end up in. I have 32 years in education, and all except those first 2 years were in Salem. I taught many different grades before becoming a principal. I always felt like the more grade levels I had taught, the better principal I could be, because I thought, I don't want to supervise a third grade teacher if I haven't been there or done that. I always wanted to make a difference, but I also wanted to let every child know that they could succeed. My big motto every year of starting school would be, you cannot teach them until they know you care about them. I always felt I was where I should be. I loved every day going to school. I loved my kids, and I still miss that. I still miss that. I grew up in a household where we were told you give back and you get out and you work, and it's my duty as long as I have the health and the energy to do it. Children's section back here, because some of these are some of my favorites. I have always had that as a dream, that I could help financially kids go to school that didn't have a way. To me, it's just the secret to success. It just means so much to me. If you're fortunate enough to be able to make a donation, the best one you can make is in a child. My name is Trula Byington, and my mission is to reach children and young people and provide them opportunities that they may not have otherwise.
Bethany, that was all lovely. And I'm struck by the fact that of the videos that you have created here for us today, 5 completely different nonprofits, but all working, to benefit our communities, which is what I love about nonprofits.
Yeah, I think it's really a privilege, I think, to get to be exposed to all these different types of missions. I think what strikes me is just the different unique gifts and talents and skills that all these folks have, and that they're really using them in all these different ways. It's a privilege, I think, as a storyteller to get to explore, some of it's very emotional, some of it's just fun, and some of it's even humorous, but also just very encouraging to see all the different ways that people are stepping up, using what they have to serve the community.